All right, let's jump right into today's explainer. If you're a SOC analyst, a manager, or maybe you're sitting in the CISO chair, consider this your executive-level consulting session. We're zeroing in on a critical piece of cyber ops that honestly gets shoved to the side way too often because everyone's chasing the shiny new tech tools. I'm talking about Strategy 9 from the Mitre 11 strategies of a world-class cybersecurity operations center. The mandate here: communicate clearly, collaborate often, and share generously. We're going to break down exactly how mature SOCs operationalize this to turn communication into an actual core defensive weapon.
Okay, let's dive into this. Picture a worst-case scenario. Your network is actively being breached. Alerts are going off like crazy, but your SOC is totally siloed. The analysts are heads down, just grinding away at technical breadcrumbs, but they aren't talking to the business units to figure out what critical data actually lives on those compromised servers. And they definitely aren't talking to peer SOCs in your industry who literally just saw this exact same threat actor yesterday. The result? You're defending in the dark. Your team is burning precious hours on totally wrong priorities. And the adversary? Well, they're slipping right through your fingers.
The cost of that isolation is just immense. An isolated SOC is plagued by siloed data, delayed responses, and a total disconnect from the business mission. It's basically operating on an island. But on the flip side, when you build an integrated SOC by establishing continuous feedback loops, rapidly sharing cyber threat intelligence, and deeply understanding the business context, you completely transform the operation. You go from a reactive cost center to a proactive mission enabler. This is why communication isn't just some fluffy soft skill, it's a hard, foundational defensive strategy.
So here's our roadmap for the explainer. We'll kick off with an executive intro, then look at internal collaboration, how to engage your constituents, and the broader cyber community. Then we'll wrap up with the maturity journey and your action plan.
Moving right into Part 1, our introduction and executive overview.
The core problem we have to solve here is that with today's cloud environments, heavy automation, and those incredibly sophisticated threat actors, a SOC literally cannot function as a closed loop. It doesn't matter how huge your budget is, you simply can't know everything about the threats you're facing if you don't engage with others. The source material puts it perfectly, stating, no matter how well-funded or well-staffed a SOC is, it can never know everything. By building skills and capacity to engage with others, the SOC can improve its own capabilities. So sharing generously isn't about just being a nice corporate citizen. It's an absolute strategic necessity to maximize your capabilities against adversaries who, let's be real, are already collaborating on the dark web.
All right, Part 2. Let's look at internal collaboration within the SOC. Before you can even think about communicating effectively with the outside world, you got to get your own house in order, right? This continual feedback loop is absolutely crucial. Incident triage doesn't just close the ticket and move on. They feed technical clarity and metrics up to leadership and push requirements over to the CTI and analytics teams. Then, those advanced teams pass new reporting and detections right back to the front line. Meanwhile, security architecture is constantly supplying solutions based on that real-world ops data. If you artificially silo these functions, they stop sharing, and this entire defensive engine just grinds to a halt.
So how do we actually pull this off, especially since so many of us are running remote or global teams nowadays? Well, you need deliberate structures in place. Daily ops stand-ups are great for immediate tactical alignment. Shift pass-down logs ensure operational continuity, basically making sure no balls get dropped between shifts. For the bigger, strategic picture, monthly all-hands meetings keep everyone on the same page. And if you're running a modern, follow-the-sun model with analysts scattered across the globe, you absolutely must build in overlapping shift times. Having the outgoing and incoming shifts actually talk to each other, whether that's live or by reviewing recorded sessions, is non-negotiable for a clean global handover.
Let's shift to Part 3, engaging constituents, stakeholders, and executives.
Here's the truth. If your SOC only speaks in IP addresses and malware hashes, the business is going to tune you out. You have to convey risk in mission-critical terms. But there's a huge trap here during a crisis, and the source material uses a brilliant analogy for this. Think of incident response like a surgeon operating on a patient. The family is in the waiting room anxiously wanting constant updates. But if they keep bursting into the operating room every 5 minutes, it completely ruins the surgeon's ability to actually save the patient. It's the same in the SOC. Over-reporting during a critical incident absolutely crushes your analysts. You need to establish two separate cadences, an informal, tactical channel for the folks in the trenches and a scheduled, formal update for upper management. Let your surgeons operate.
When it is time to give those formal updates to management, you have to translate the tech jargon into actual business intelligence. The text outlines 4 key questions you have to answer to do this right. First, what or who was targeted? Second, was the adversary successful? Third, who is this adversary and what's their motivation? And finally, and trust me, this is the one executives care about most, how do we continue the mission? If you hit those 4 questions, you are speaking the language of the business fluently.
Now, in modern setups, like when you're working with cloud architects or DevOps teams, you can push this engagement way further. Elite SOCs actually co-create analytics with these technical partners. They tailor detection specifically for the cloud environments those teams manage. You can also share redacted architecture diagrams to build trust, showing them how you monitor things without giving away your secret sauce or internal investigative techniques. Maintaining an updated service catalog and running joint purple teaming exercises, that turns these folks from mere constituents into active defensive partners. Real game changer. Moving to part 4, the cyber community and the broader ecosystem. A world-class SOC is never just a consumer of threat feeds. It's an active contributor to the wider defense ecosystem. When a major incident hits, standard feeds just aren't going to cut it. Mature SOCs partner closely with their supply chain, their cloud providers, law enforcement, and, critically, peer SOCs in their own industry. When you collaborate with a peer SOC, you get unique intelligence. We're talking specific TTPs targeting your exact sector that you literally cannot buy off a shelf anywhere.
Okay, part 5. Let's trace the maturity journey from just starting out to reaching elite status.
You have to know where you currently stand to get to that elite level. Beginner SOCs, they operate in total isolation. Their reports are ad hoc, their posture is totally reactive, and their tools are heavily siloed. If that sounds a little too familiar, consider it a serious warning indicator. Elite SOCs, on the other hand, have automated their intelligence sharing. They're routinely running purple team exercises. They proactively engage with the community, and they have incredibly strict feedback loops that constantly tune their tools based on real-world outcomes.
Wrapping up with part 6, your action plan and key takeaways.
Understanding Strategy 9 conceptually is great, but what can you actually implement tomorrow morning? Start with the quick wins. Publish a standard service catalog so the business knows exactly what it is you do. Kick off daily ops stand-ups to get your internal team talking. And define your incident reporting rules right now to protect your analysts from that update fatigue we talked about. Then, as you mature, you can aim for those long-term goals. Automate your IOC sharing using protocols like Taxi or Styx so your systems sync instantly. Integrate your risk scoring directly with business context, and set up joint threat hunting partnerships.
So let's quickly summarize our deep dive into Strategy 9. Number 1, build those rigorous internal feedback loops between triage, intel, and engineering. Number 2, drop the jargon. Speak the language of the business using those 4 key questions about impact and mission continuity. Number 3, fiercely manage your incident reporting cadence. Again, let your surgeons operate. And finally, number 4, don't just take intel. Make sure you're giving back to the broader cyber community.
You now know how to communicate and collaborate. But let me ask you this. When the board asks exactly how effective your SOC actually is, can you definitively prove it with data? Are you really ready to justify your budget and measure your real impact? Well, in our next explainer, we are going to tackle exactly that as we unpack Strategy 10, measure performance to improve performance. You won't want to miss it. See you then.